Hey everybody, BTO Pro here, and today I'm going to show you how to install HAX on Reclaim Hosting's Reclaim.cloud product. HAX is no longer theoretical. What was once a dream of a next generation digital learning environment with Elms is now realized as a sustainable, infinitely scaling technology. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to log in to Reclaim's cloud product. This is going to be available on Reclaim hosting as well via one-click install. And so if I go to Marketplace and I search for HAX, it comes up and I can deploy it. Now I already did that, so we don't have to wait. So you're going to get this on your dashboard here. And I got an email with my username and password in this case. If you're using Reclaim's Reclaim hosting product, this is just on your cPanel dashboard. You'll get it even faster. So I'm going to launch into HAX, and it says it's version 7.0.3. You can see my little character assembled there. And hopefully you get the music through the recording. I'm not sure if it does, but it's awesome. So we are going to start supporting other journeys. We actually scaled it back to just courses to get this thing to be as slick as possible. But what you're looking at here, imagine, is a WordPress multi-site. This is our multi-site management tool, and you've been dropped into creating your first site. So why would we encumber you with a zillion options? I'm going to make a course, or I could import from somewhere else. There are a lot of different formats we support. You can go straight from a docx files heading structure directly into page structure. I can go from Elms LN, another product we've worked on that inspired a lot of this, HAX, or as we call it here, HAX CMS, meaning I can take existing HAX sites, point to the URL, and I have a new one that I can work with and remix as I see fit. Killer functionality for OER. Evolution, which is a format internal to Penn State. We've also got support for Notion, Gitbook, and experimental support for Pressbooks. It imports all of the material. It doesn't fully maintain the structure, something we still need to clean up. So let me go back to making a new course, though. So I'm going to make a course. I'm going to create my own course. 15-week, still needs some work. It's going to give you the structure. Literally, it's just going to be like lesson 1, 2, 3, 4. But you can create nothing you can't do on your own. So I'm going to call this HAX1. Let's call it 703 because that's what version we're on. It builds pretty quickly and obviously has the fun hat I'm going to have on at the conference. Now, this is going to redirect us over to our site. So we've got loading HAX 703. Okay. And so what we're immediately presented with is just a little overview page, which is effectively showing us data that's over here. So we use this in a whole bunch of our courses internal to Penn State. I can go find one right now. Eberly College of Science uses this quite extensively. And the way that they present this material on their first page for their HAX courses looks something more like this. So they strip away the design as a wrapper and just give you almost like you're dropped into an interactive textbook, because you are. So we've got our weeks of instruction here, and you can see they have a ton of material that they've laid out using the HAX authoring system. They've got links off to H5P files. They've got lots of YouTube media embedded. They've got self-checks and things that are saying, hey, hold up, notes from instructors, math jacks in context. They do an awesome job of using HAX. So that's what that initial page is for. You can throw it away, or we can add other pages. But I'm going to go to the lessons page. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a child. So I can add anything under here. I can edit what I'm working on with the edit button, or I can delete what I was there, right? So I can confirm, do that, and it's gone. Notice no clunky reloading like in 20-plus-year-old systems with lots of UIs. Try to really focus on simplifying the process of building a website. And yes, an online course is a website. So we've got a lot of tools to really make online courses interactive and engaging. So if I want to build things out rapidly, these are the tool sets for when I'm working on my site as a whole. So pull up the outline designer. If I want to add some content under here quickly, I can also rapidly mock up what is going to be on that page if I want to at this step. So if I'm just kind of prototyping a lesson and we've got like the introduction to lesson, and every time I create introductions to lesson, I usually have a setup paragraph. Then I'm going to have some like objective list of some kind. I'm probably going to have a video on it. And so I could organize this stuff prior, and then there's like an outro. I can do some very, very rough templating of what's going to be on that page before I actually go and start working with it. So I usually have an introduction page, and then after my introduction, there's like the meat and potatoes of what this is. What is HAX? And we're going to learn what it is in that. Now, I know that in what is HAX, I'm probably going to have a heading of some kind. I've got an image that I'm going to throw there underneath that paragraph. Right? You don't have to mock things up in this way, but it's another way. I'm just giving some examples. I can also add a page, and then we'll move it under there. So under what is HAX, we might have additional hierarchy, right? So this is a hierarchy building tool, very quick hierarchy building tool. So many things, right? If you want different pages, that's what I'm enabling here. Or if you want headings, you could just have a whole ton of headings under the same page. So I'm going to add another page right next to what is HAX, and this will be like my summary page, right? And a summary, whenever we're teaching, it might have a way of checking your understanding, and it might have some overarching data table or something like that. Again, just theoretically. So I'm going to hit save. All right. And that will have gone and made all of the pages that I just said and provide stub content that is those types. So you can see what is HAX, has an image on it. So many things is blank, but this page has an interactive self-check on it, so students can click and reveal what the answer is, as well as the stub for a table to work on. So if I want to do, doing backwards design, work on the finish of this lesson, and then work backwards from there, I can edit this page. And when I'm editing this page, what I'm doing the entire time of view source is editing HTML, but it's kind of not what you're used to. So traditionally, you might be used to something like this, like table. There's a table tag, and we support all of the normal HTML5 capable tags, video, audio, etc. If you want paragraphs and things, you can do that. But you're probably not familiar with the HTML specification that says you can put a self-check in a page and it just works. So there is a specification in the browser that sits below HTML. We're getting super technical here for just a minute because it's a really important concept. It says there's a paragraph tag, and you have the paragraph, and the paragraph spaces things out, whatever. But when you apply strong to something and you bold that text, there's something kind of magical there below that tag as far as its nuts and bolts that says, make this show up a little bit bolder, right? So that could be done via CSS and styling, but it just happens. So imagine there is something below all of these called just HTML element. That is the generic definition of that. Paragraph forks from there. Bold forks from there. Div, video, everything forks from there. And you can fork from there as well to create new tags that are valid in any browsing environment, in any system they're integrated in. This is the rare earth mineral that is the HTML spec that now we can generate our own tags powered by JavaScript. So I can give you the tag, put it in content, ship the definition in, hydrate the tag, and you have that exact thing without any scoping issues. This will look the same no matter where it is. Self-check always looks like self-check, much like a video or bold, have the same constraints and requirements as HTML that we don't even think about. That's what we have access to with this. And what HAX is doing is just taking those tags and placing them in HTML. But HAX is also made up of this web component stuff. So HAX knows how to edit those web components. So I've got my shark in here. Let's say we want to replace the shark. This is supposedly something about HAX and image sources. We come with one baked in, which is NASA. So if you want to search NASA for HAX, I don't think it's going to come up with anything. Opportunity has landed. Sure. Oh, wow. Hurricane Harvey has intensified. Yeah, let's put in a hurricane. Awesome. Okay. So there's a hurricane, and we're going to make this red because this is a bad thing. And then this gives us a chance to, what is that? Train people about accessibility. And by train people about accessibility, I mean solve the problem entirely so you don't have to think about accessibility ever again. What do I mean? What just happened there should be kind of earth-shattering. So if I go over here on the, in this left panel that I'm looking at where we have self-check, I'm modifying the attributes about this self-check. And because this is HTML and what you're seeing is a form that is understanding how to edit HTML, I can then play by different rules than what we've been used to. So these HTML tags can have connotations of color baked into them, accessible color, connotations of what is an accessible button, because we use this for literally every aspect of what you're looking at right now. The color theory is baked into this Merlin button. The icon is the same everywhere the icon is placed. If I right click on any part of the interface, you will see literally, like there's a div, but you will see thousands of web components that work the same no matter where they're placed, working in concert with normal HTML tags. So we've got Merlin there, and Merlin is a simple toolbar button. I know that will look the same everywhere it goes, but Merlin and that button has deep color theory baked into it. And so if we turn out the lights, we get an accessible color contrast regardless. There's no like CSS, and I wrote a whole bunch of selectors. That stuff is baked into these tags, so the tags respond to dark as an attribute. And so in our little self-check here, which says something about sharks, that's going to need to be updated. It's not sharks. It's hurricanes, right? That hockey team that got eliminated a few rounds ago. So if I say dark theme is disabled, right, and we change this to purple, that is going to hit WCAG 2.0 AA that this has the correct contrast ratio and it looks the same type of color and color ratios that we use throughout our entire system. So there's really good deep color theory baked into everything so that you as a user and me as a user, I don't want to have to know this stuff. I just want to say, oh, we're talking about hurricanes. It's in water. Hurricanes are blue. Sure. And then, yeah, let's make it dark because it's a little more shocking. I don't want to have to think about that stuff. I don't want to have to think that if I make this dark and it sets the background of this, that I need that text to be white. It just occurs now. So I've got my hurricane. That's what we're writing an article about. I can also do all kinds of operation in context as we would expect with any text editing environment. This is not normal. However, if it was Gutenberg, then it might be. All right, so if I wanted to add an emoticon in there, fun. If I wanted to add any number of symbols, we can add symbols in. If I needed to write some math in context, right, and it might be like the Pythagorean theorem. And I honestly, ooh, there we go, sure. Theorem, yes, there we go. Right, so text editing, nothing fancy there. But the Pythagorean theorem, as we all know, actually, I forget what it is, but I think it's a squared equals b squared plus c squared. Right, so we've got MathJack support built into it. This was like a really long-winded way of me saying we have MathJack. Right, and if you want to learn more about the Pythagorean theorem, not from that silly little MathJax example, but me saying something cool about the Pythagorean theorem, I'm going to have to make some more space there for it. I don't know what that word is. Let's check the tape. Google Pythagorean theorem. Oh, it was close. It has to do with a hypotenuse. What does Pythagorean mean? Now, there are any number of ways I could add that definition in. I could do it via a in context vocabulary term. So I could dump in that this is Pythagorean, and I would say that's the definition, so that when we pop over the definition, we can check out what that is. Or I could say Gutenberg, and the reason that I call it Gutenberg, now the reason that I call this Gutenberg is because it's full of bugs. And I understand that that's a little hypocritical because I just showed a bug that I fixed that I have to push out in context. But Gutenberg is destined to break at all times because to build a new Gutenberg block, you have to know React. And then you don't just need to know React, you need to know a specific flavor of React as it plays with that existing WordPress site. So while supposedly headless and can work anywhere, kind of doesn't. So that little thing right there is an inline audio tag. And the inline audio tag right there can run standalone. That just works on any page, just like any other page or any other web component that you would ever see that we do. However, that one talked to a upload widget, and the upload widget talked to another web component that's involved in brokering my voice and turning it into MP3. So we have a in-context voice recording widget. Why? Because we're operating against the web platform, and those are three separate considerations. That means that if I want to do audio somewhere, let's insert something at the top, right? I can drop into, in this case, Merlin, we'll get to in a second, and oh, look, audio is right there. So I can throw audio in context, and the way in which I edit that audio or add a new file, look for one, even re-record different audio, which I could do now. I could actually just be kind of like breaking the fourth wall, talking about the fact that I'm in my office producing this media for this event that I'm going to go to. Save, and we've replaced it in context there. Oh, that's the it's still on the Whopper song. Let's see if it updates to my voice instead of the Whoppers. Okay, now it updated. Yes, updated to it. I already had an MP3 in that one. But the input for that widget is identical because it's just built into that web component. And I'm not saying it's easy to construct these web components. We've been working on towards this paradigm for many years, but we can just keep leveraging past work. So every icon, it is a way we do icons. And now I can just implement simple icon. And everywhere I put simple icon, it's going to have the same criteria, same as this input field. Everywhere I put that input field for audio uploading, I've got three separate ways in which I could leverage that. They're going to look and function identically no matter where they're placed. This is a transformative way of going about doing business that didn't exist 20 plus years ago. There's that color ratio stuff built into the video player as well. Table editing. We have an awesome table editor. If you enjoy Excel, it's effectively a little Excel spreadsheet editor, but it works with progressively enhancing existing tables. So if you bring any HTML table into this, it's going to be able to modify that table, ingest it, and then generate this same display so that you can do some simple striping, and then it's those columns and save. That was a lot harder than knowing literally all of the HTML spec associated with that to make it accessible. Oh, wait, it forces accessibility into the table and the way that the table is constructed. So some other interesting things. I did mention Merlin very briefly. Merlin, or in this case, you can think of it as like a slash command if you're familiar with systems like that, is for trying to help you learn how to obtain a context in a new system. I've used a ton of different systems as well. And every time there's a new one, it's like, oh, shoot, where's and you're looking around for something. And then there's only so much logically placed you can do. So I think we've done a half decent job with this version of, most of the operations are just going to be right here in front of you. Merlin is intentionally like, what the heck is Merlin? So that you'll click on it. But what Merlin is doing is it's showcasing anything you can do without needing to go and actually find and click on it. So instead of having to learn the UI, you just have to learn a certain pattern in your head. So if I start to know what's possible to put in the system, and it can also be through discovery. So, for example, let's close out this. I'll just put in a block quote. So, obviously, I've got this is how liberty dies to thunderous applause. But if I hit Merlin, and Merlin's going to show me what is possible to do. It's saying there's 52 commands I could possibly do at this moment. So let's say I ran into a bug like before. I could actually just go jump straight into this. Is going to give us all the information about where you were. You can clean this up. You can see I'm using a pretty high-powered device. All things that might be important for submitting a bug. We are at that level of UX refinement. So when I went to put in audio player and change the file, it didn't immediately update the state. Now, that's a very technical answer. I know that, but I also use this even just to speed up my own process. So that's in my issue too now. All right, now we're back here. I didn't have to go find anything. It came to me. That's what we're trying to do with Merlin. So let's say video. You want to put, okay, so there's some other things that could be video. There's an audio/video type more generally. So if you wanted to put in a Spotify playlist, I could throw that in and do some minor changes based on what their API is. So I could use the default way of displaying things. Thank you. Wasn't sure what it was doing there, just sort of jumping around. All right, so now we've got one of my favorite bands in there at the top of the page. I could go to add blocks as I've started to learn the user interface. And we see this is another way of exposing all of the types that we have access to. So if I want to embed things from Twitter, I can easily do that. Add a QR code that goes to something specific, put that fun little RPG character down, and it's fun to just hammer on this button because they show up at random. Put in a way of displaying dates, link to a Wikipedia article. There's ridiculous number of types in here. Now, all of the ones I've shown, really, with the exception of self-check, don't have anything to do with online teaching, which is a fair assessment. So we've got things like citation, we've got licenses, we've got placeholders. These are some things that help with authoring material. Also starting to get into, and we don't have multi-user just yet in what I'm showing here right here, starting to get into the idea of placing page flags so that you can actually have comments like author notes back and forth. We can see with audio and video, right? We had Spotify, video, and an audio tag. Images, we have image comparison. And the image comparison lets you kind of fade between two images, kind of neat. So if I were to use the photo upload widget, which I could just do that. All right, I should be able to, yes, the kitten fades into just like a horrific version of me. So we probably should take a different photo so that it's not a horrific version of me. I've never actually tried to have two of these on the screen at one time. That might not actually be possible. Might have to click back to that. Let's try that again. Replace that kitten. Everyone wants to replace the kitten. Oh, you're not going to let me replace the kitten. Oh, all right. Well, there's another unfortunate bug that I ran into. Apparently, it's just the first photo mode. Although it could also be that I'm using a webcam and it's already recording. So there's a little bit of inception going on. But for right now, I could also use this to go search NASA in context. Let's throw an expedition in there. Right. And so now we should fade between me talking and a rocket launch. Obviously needed to do that. Some other ways, we have an accessible GIF player. We've got just decent treatment for images. Got some silly ones like memes in there, but as well as some layout sorts of things. So like presenting materials a card, doing a full width section break, doing a fancy little block quote, putting in column-based layout so you could actually go and take the other material that you made, paragraphs, what have you, throw them into column layout. I can actually expand this to be like 4 columns, and then I could take that and we can tell it to move to column 4. And then all of the things placed in those columns hopefully is then responsive. So the important one for this is instructional. So we have tables. We have this little button for consistently referencing worksheets to download, ebooks. If you need to have samples of code in context, if you want to ask multiple choice questions, if you want stop notes, which you showed in Eberle's work. So a stop note allows me to change between confirmations and notices and warnings and be hold up there, read these important things ahead, right? But I could also add stuff into here. So it could be like, hey, watch this video as a review, right? So hold up there and I select this type and I say, hey, watch this first. Right? So I can have some sort of slight detour and be like, hey, you got to really pay attention to this video. This is going to be on the quiz. And I'm going to take that video and we're going to put it into learning mode. And if I put a video into learning mode, it disables these other options as far as skipping back and forth. So maybe I'm going to ask you a question after that. I could drop a multiple choice tag in right after that. And then I could add some additional options to this because we want to do a knowledge check, right? But what did you learn, right? And it could be HAX is a lot. The PTO Pro talks fast. It could also be that Canvas is great. Or that WordPress is fun. That's another fun fact. So I could say that that's the correct answer. I could say that HAX is a lot. If I wanted these to be single answer, you could do that type of question. They will automatically be generated in a random format here, as far as it'll randomize every single time I reset the question. Now I could take it right here or save, and we'll saving all of these things into the page, right? Just to verify that they're there. Now, what did you learn? I was told to stop. Okay, I watched the video, and then I learned that WordPress is 20. BTO Pro talks fast. That's not it. HAX is a lot. Ta-da! Right? So every time I reset this for this little self-check, as far as multiple choice, it's going to randomize the order. Every time this page loads for your students, it's going to randomize what the order is. So HAX is so many things and then some. So I can search for media, and you see we have a couple built-in media sources. Certain demos I give, and these settings are not exposed in the UI. We have support for YouTube and Vimeo and Jiffy as well, so that we can go straight from those, search those in context, and it's dumped in the page. Sketchfab is in here, so if you're interested in doing anything 3D, llamas, maybe there's some 3D llamas. Ooh, a sheep toy. Okay, yeah, sure, a sheep toy. Right? So then I can embed that directly in here. Oh, something went wrong. Learn how to fix it. That's something on there. Oh, well, I can scroll it around. Doesn't seem to like how small it is. Oh, there we go. Didn't like how small it was. All right. So I embedded a 3D model by just clicking on it. Also, if I need to change the title of this page, I don't have to go to the outline designer. I could do that right here. And I can set different page types if I really wanted to. So this is kind of a more thing where I want you to observe what we're doing. And the tags are 3D model observation. So I'll save. Cool. So we saved, and we see that it's something I'm going to observe. So it shows up in the UI that way. If it was on lessons, I could go edit the lessons. And instead, I'd say, well, this might be like for this is a module of an instruction, right? So I could go back to this content. I don't need to use these tags, but did for funsies there. Could also call upon Merlin, and I'm not editing a page right now. And Merlin says, hey, there's 79 things you could do, because part of this is just typing whatever you're searching for. So it has what I previously searched for, llamas, with misspelled, and doesn't actually come up with anything. So if you know the word or some part of the word, right? We can get into these tags and things. I can search for that. So if I'm like, I don't know, import, I want to import something. Oh, I can import docx files. It's a way of discovering what's possible because it's a lot. There's a lot of things that you can do with this, and it's going to keep expanding as far as functionality because a lot of the UX patterns built in are pretty rock solid, in my opinion. So we're really into like gap analysis land and enhancing existing types and refinement. You saw there was some little 500 error before, some debugging mode, but we can build some pretty sophisticated stuff using the tools that we have right now. So went to the wrong website there. We're going to go to a there you go, demonstration tool. So this is a version that I have. I didn't, go and build all those things out immediately in there. I've got a couple of my courses present in here. The other one I can go to is this is a Music 109 course. Right, so this is operating within Elms, which is kind of our more legacy NGDLE as opposed to what I showed. But because our tools work anywhere I can load these tags and interpret them, I'm able to effectively inject HAX CMS into Elms. So when our users, we have several thousand students that use online courses at Penn State that are using these systems, they're going to get experience with the same type of UI and consistency and speed, even though it's a different backend. They shouldn't have to care about that. And honestly, training our users, they also shouldn't have to care about what that is. So you can see they've got this content pretty fleshed out as far as hierarchy. So this does support very large course spaces. Going back to one of my examples, this is how I use it in class, right? So I'll add silly examples into things. And a lot of what you're seeing, especially around the cartoony art style for the more site listing display, that came directly from my classroom. So I've had some pretty rock star students graphically, as well as being able to wire this stuff up. Literally everything here is a series of nested web components, things like wired displays so that button looks different every time the page loads, the actual button above it, even this silly little random word I didn't even point over here. If you click, it changes. The art style, the backgrounds, they made a ton of this display, and I helped with a lot of the state management, but the UI aspects were all them. So I did mention we could import things from other spaces. So another interesting aspect is this space that I just made. Where are we? Okay, yeah, so we're on Reclaim. So this space that I just made should be public. I'm going to open a incognito window here real quick just to verify that. Okay, so that is public. So if I put in the address, all right, and let's close this. And then I go back to my other instance. In this case, I'm now working internally. This is like where we have this deployed. I can point to any HAX produced site and leech that content. This is killer for OER and content portability. So all of that work that I just did over there, we have to do this migration. We've got this WordPress multi-set that it's at the end of the day, this is just HTML that we're saving to, and a very, very lightweight format that does the hierarchy structuring. So any site that we're working on is just doing very simple reads and writes to this file format. So when I add a page, it's just adding into this array, and it's creating a static HTML page to match underneath. And because of that, it means I can take this with me wherever, right? So there's the deep thoughts, the video player. You can see there's HTML. And as long as I can hydrate that video player tag, those HTML tags, I can take that content with me. I could throw these responses out on CodePen or can download the entire site. I can go into my site dashboard and let's search for whatever HAX 703, and I can say more options, and I can download this. And there is my site. It's a series of pages with static HTML, and it's an initial entryway. You don't even need PHP to run it. You could put this, you could dump this onto GitHub Pages or any static host, old school style, and you would have a working website. I should go into Reclaim and just upload this folder directly, and it should just work. I haven't done that in quite a while, but it should just work. So as long as we can get the definition there, it works. Because we're leveraging the web component standard, this works in any other system. And it's a very organic, easy to deploy, easy to send to other people, easy to learn how to work with and edit type of a system. Right. So we've got some really big courses coming out of Everly College of Science using this. I use this in my own teaching in our Information Sciences and Technology College in order to deliver my courses and some augmented online material. But the students are also working with me to build out and enhance this platform. So one last silly thing. Dark mode toggle. So that's Merlin. Merlin has a voice. Merlin can be put into a mode where Merlin is listening and is interactive at all times, which I'll do in a second here. You are your little character. We're working on more ways at which you can actually customize your character. This character is just another web component that has an input form. So if I wanted to put a little RPG character there and type in reclaim.hosting, reclaim.cloud is the address, right? This is what reclaim.cloud looks like. We could make reclaim.cloud a cowboy that is on fire and running really fast, or perhaps has coffee because they must have a lot of coffee. So they're running around on fire with coffee. As a fun side to that before I save that page, if you generate a 404, that's what happens, right? We've got the "this is fine" meme that we hidden away. So if I put Merlin into its only mode, which there's a secret developer key at the moment, so we can hide functionality in plain sight. But so I'll turn on Santa mode, as it's called here. Hey Merlin, what is HAX? Hey Merlin. Hey Merlin. Stop listening. Bellschnickel. And then he pops up and is still listening. But seriously, it's it's to say, oh crap, I need to know how to edit the page. Okay, oh, there's edit. But it could, if it's easier for you to go edit page, oh sweet, and now I'm editing the page, right? If it's that one barrier that we can reduce so that it makes it easier for you to do something, then that's what we're trying to accomplish. So uh, let's see if I can do run program, search NASA, going to Mars, right? That also pulled in all of the information associated with that article coming from NASA's official API. So I know this is a high quality image that is actually legit. So this is some of what we've been working on for the last, it's been like 3 years since I went to the last Reclaim, maybe more. Maybe it's like 3.5 years. Goodness, I don't even remember. Time goes so quickly. But I presented on HAX at Reclaim whenever the previous one was in Durham. It was an adorable abomination visually. I had an interesting idea. It definitely was not there visually. I think this is no longer theoretical. This is something we can actually start using. Penn State is using this to deliver hundreds of online courses. And increasingly, we will encroach beyond the space that is just content. I showed some of the things that are into self-check exercises. It's very easy because of the approach we're taking to move beyond very simplistic functionality into increasingly more and more complexity. And it's because we've got microservice architecture backing a lot of this, shared microservice architecture. So if you use Notion as another example, let me see if I can pull up. Here we go. So this is a Notion exported space that one of our faculty members is working on, and it generates this nice little table of contents, and he's using these icons. So a little bit of our import is specific to that, but it's basically just to enhance the output. So because we're using microservice architecture, when you set up your instance of Reclaim hosting, you don't actually have a Notion import capability. There is a service that we pay for that, when it's required, spins up. It's like a Lambda. It's going to be thrown this file right now, and it just does the processing to convert this format into HAX CMS format, sends it back, and now you're on Reclaim side. And this might take a little bit on this while I pontificate as usual. So it's going to lock at about 94 because this is a big space, and it's actually going to pull across the media that Ben has in that course as well. So it's taking that format from Notion, and it's going to convert it into our HAX schema. It's called JSON outline schema, is the way that we structure it. There we go. And so you could start working somewhere else and pull into this format. And because of the microservice architecture that's backing this, if there's some issue with just that one little piece, it's like, for me, web components, but on the back end. It allows me to go in and fix one little tiny thing so that, oh, we've got this Notion import while hitting infinite scale. Thousands of you can throw data to do Notion imports at the same time. And because it's running on a platform called Vercel, it's going to spin up and scale and generate lambdas to satisfy those requests, to kick the imports back, and then you work locally. So eventually we will get to what I've deemed as HAX invisible backend, which is effectively, this could run largely in a code pen without any backend, and then broker the files to save directly to your computer. That gets us into desktop applications. It transforms what it is to put things on the internet, in my opinion. That's where we're going. So I hope this was an interesting dive into why I've been freaking out, or why the team has been freaking out about the improvements in usability. And I look forward to seeing some of you at Reclaim Hosting's Reclaim Open event soon. Ta-ta.